Ladies and gentlemen, my name is JCS. I am the owner, ruler, founder, grand poobah of OCW and subsidiaries. Listener discretion is strongly advised. I would like to say without provocation, I would like to pontificate without further hesitation. First and foremost, I want to say I told you so. But for people listening, you don't know what I'm referring to. You sound like a crazy man. So, YouTuber Denkops, I believe his name is Denkops or Chris Denker. You can Google him and he'll pop up thousands of videos. So shout out to that man for his content. He had the joy or the privilege to interview a couple of devs from WWE 2K20, and there was a short question answer segment, 26-minute video that could have gone maybe 10 minutes. There was not a lot of information that was divulged, but before we get into the specific information that was divulged, I just want to make mention to a couple of things, and hopefully we can tie this all up into a wonderful bow at the end of this mini podcast, because I'm not trying to be here super long. I just wanted to vent my thoughts because it's been weighing on me all day. So who am I? I run, as I said, OCWFed, which is quote unquote a league, a competitive league for the last decade and a half, almost 15 years. I'm going to say it's 15 years this October. So yay, happy birthday to us. Didn't even celebrate, but you get it. 15 years old. We're going to high school, baby. So the basic premise is you create an avatar and you compete against other players from around the world on Xbox One and PS4. Before it used to be the Xbox console, the PS2s, the Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, you get the idea. So right now we have PS4 and Xbox One. You compete around the world. In addition to that, we take it back to the old school. You know what I'm talking about. You know, some of you old classic NWA power people, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, role plays, written role plays, the written word. And we combine that, the written word with videos and matches and recordings, and we put that together on a weekly basis, 2 shows a week. Go us. For everybody to watch on YouTube and or Twitch, depending. So I say that to say this. I've been dealing with the WWE games machine for the better part of 15 years. And we have to make it work. So I come from that perspective. That's my side. I don't care about the Fiend attire. I don't care about universe mode, although it's neat. I'm not super into GM mode. I don't care about AI versus AI. I just care about the online component. Now, we'll get to that in a second, hopefully. But the crux of the argument is that a couple months ago, Ukes, the company, one of the companies that helped develop the WWE series of games and has been for the better part of pretty much since I'm going to say, it goes back to about maybe 2002, 2001 with SmackDown, the original SmackDown engine. Look that up. PS1's a really fun game. Very simple, but cool. They've been there since the beginning. So a couple of months ago, they released, I guess there was an article regarding their, I guess not frustration, but they basically announced that they're gonna make a second wrestling game because just working on the WWE games limits them creatively, and they want to try and do all kinds of neat things. So say what you will about Ukes, Japanese company. They were with THQ back in the day as well, when THQ was manning the helm before the 2K took over, which as wrestling fans, we thought when 2K took over, the game would reach new heights. Pause. And here we are. Jesus. Anyway. I digress. So, Ukes has been around for a minute. They released an article stating clearly that, working on WWE limits them creatively, so they'll be making their own engine, their own wrestling game, in-house. Not to compete with WWE, but to just test their creative muscle and offer an alternative and all that good stuff. So, they mentioned they had no ill will towards WWE and that WWE would never part with them, and they loved their WWE. So, fast forward a couple months later, we come to find out that Ukes has been cut. And at first, I thought, as a wrestling fan, some of the dumbest people on earth, personally included, by the way, I thought to myself, okay, So WWE cut Ukes. No, actually 2K cut Ukes. And the companies that participate with the WWE games currently are Ukes, who does the gameplay, the moves and all that good stuff. All the mechanics of the game are controlled or helmed by Ukes, based off a checklist or production manager's vision for whatever yearly release game they want to do, whatever nonsense they want to put in for the next game for the year. Visual Concepts is another company that is also teamed up with Ukes and 2K, and they handle all the visual fidelity, the models, the graphics, the assets, all that good stuff. So together they make a nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Apart, you might just have a sandwich that has peanut butter or just jelly, and they might be delicious, they might be tasty, but together they're better. So I say that to say this: with Ukes being removed and put into a consulting role, more or less, which basically means they're out. So when I read this and I saw that Visual Concepts is taken over months ago, and also with Visual Concepts taking over, they will also going to quote unquote simplify the controls, and I'll get to that in a second. Shout out to the Denkops. With Visual Concepts taking over the helm, there leads to be an issue. The issue is that you have, a company that is mainly focused on fidelity, graphics, presentation, not so much the nuance and the mechanics of the gameplay. But it's okay, because Ukes is going to be they're going to still be on to consult for this game, or so we thought. So now we fast forward to the Denkops interview. Prior to this, I said simplified controls is going to be a disaster because these kind of games require nuance, but that's not that's for whatever. So we fast forward to the Denkops interview, and for the most part, it is just as horrible as people anticipated. There's a lot of just vague answers, a lot of shade tossed at Ukes, which leads me to believe there's going to be a scapegoating incident, which basically means that, even in their own in the devs' own words, we love you, we appreciate you guys, but the short end of it is that since VC or Visual Concepts is taking over, the game that we're going to receive in a couple of weeks, rather 2-3 weeks from now, is basically just going to be WWE 2K19.5, in the sense that, and I'm jumping around, I'm sorry, it's hard to keep track. If you notice, for the past couple of months, there has been rarely any info regarding WWE, like no gameplay footage, nothing. You're just a bunch of, stupid little videos and entrances and stuff, and everyone wondered why. Why was the case? That's very strange, and this is why. And shout out to Denkops for getting the interview. But the controller simplified, and by that, the Y trigger, the Y button rather, or triangle, if you're PS4, is now the reversal button. So the excuse for this was essentially the fact that players, and by players I mean I'm probably thinking someone from Visual Concepts, because I can't fathom any actual Q&A tester hitting the right trigger and going, oh, this is too hard. Like, apparently it took too long to hit reversals. This is the same company that when we had WWE 2K20, all you literally had to do was breathe on the trigger and you reversed 97% of the moves. But apparently hitting a right trigger right now causes too much time and it's difficult, so we're just going to make it the Y button. From a competitive aspect, this is just disgusting. It's terrible. So for that, people are telling me, hey, but don't worry about it because you can remap the controls. Yes, you can, and of course most people will be doing that. But here's something that a lot of people who play don't know. If you go online, your controls revert back to the original base default controls because there's no server-side settings to save your custom controls online. It's very stupid, I know. Name any other game that does that, has that same caveat. I'll wait. Thank you. So to that I say, okay, well that's strange. We learned about lobbies, which is good, but here's the funny thing. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 and 2005 actually had player lobbies. I'm sorry, 2006, not 2005. They had player lobbies. You couldn't moderate them, basically. Someone would just run to your lobby and, you had to start the game before everybody, you wanted to make sure your friends got in before some rando joined because you couldn't kick them because God forbid. But so lobbies is not new, but apparently for 2K19.5, it is new. So congratulations on that. So we learned that, there's no GM mode, and the reason for that is because they wanted to focus on the women's My Career, because that's what the fans wanted. And I get maybe the women's revolution, all that good stuff. But here's the funny part about that. The women's showcase, or rather, no, the My Career for the females, it's joint. So you're stuck with two default characters, Trey and Red. So Red's the girl, Trey's the dude. And you have all these zany adventures in your My Career to become a Hall of Famer. Rather than get into all that on why I think that's stupid, I won't. If that's your cup of tea, knock yourself out. The fact that you can't have a custom, my career guy is a little disenfranchising. I'm hoping that even if we're stuck with the name Trey and stuck with Red, that at the very least we'll be able to modify Trey and or Red as needed, hopefully. Because I don't want to play a white guy. I want to make someone who's brown, maybe. So give me that option. I think that will be in, hopefully. If it isn't, Jesus Christ. But I hold true that'll happen. So where was I? Oh, yeah. So basically, the 2K devs told us to kind of lower our expectations, that they didn't add anything new. They essentially just added more content. And by more content, they, the goofy stuff. If you notice, there's like these season passes that will be graphic content that'll be dropped, every couple of months. And that's basically what Visual Concept does. They're able to make like, Zombo, Randy Orton and all kinds of funny stuff, which is fine. But the issue is that that's all they know. So while they find new devs, while they find new people to tweak the gameplay, while they find people to rewrite the code that Ukes has worked on for the past almost 20 years, we get this substandard product. And the funny thing about this is you would think that, hey, maybe they should do the Modern Warfare equivalent where, every year or every 2 years, I don't play Modern Warfare, so I don't know if it's every year, every 2 years. I think it's every 2 years in the sense that one company does it 2004, then the other company does it 2006, but they bounce around. So why don't you just have Ukes handle this transitional period, and then you can give VC enough time to get their eggs in one basket and move forward with their new game. But no, 2K doesn't give a rat's ass about that, because 2K just wants that money. They can't get loot box money, but they can get goofy Visual Concept idea money. So they're going to go for, why not? Why not make a couple million? I'm just like, who cares about the gamers? They don't give a shit. I'm sorry. They really don't. It's about the bottom line. And I can't fault 2K. Why would I? Money is what they care about. If you're a business, you want to make money. It's just a really piss poor attempt at the devs giving Ukes the short end of the stick and then trying to use them as scapegoats. Because while Visual Concepts gets their act together, we're going to have 2K19.5, and then next year, if you didn't know, there's going to be the PS5 and also whatever the hell the Xbox One is going to be called, Scorpio. I don't know, but it's a new one, the new Xbox. So they're basically going to be jumping from one iteration of the game to a brand new concept completely. Just a giant paradigm, or as I used to say, paradigm shift. A brand new set of games. So that means that basically means that this year 2K20 is WWE 19.5, like I said, and then 2K21 is going to be the same thing, to a 0.10 maybe, or 0.57. So that's 2 years that us as gamers get the shaft. Now, here's the funny part. So people are saying, well, what does it matter to you? Take it back. I'm all for consumers' rights, but here's the rub. For someone who runs a competitive league, we rely on the game. Now, it's easy to say, hey, we'll just play 2K19. I would love to, but here's a fun fact that you may or may not know that 2K does. 2K shuts down their servers for the previous game within 4 to 6 months of launching the new game. So roughly by December, January, the 2K19 servers will no longer be operational. To give you a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe parody, or I don't know the specific word, so bear with me. I apologize. The old 360 games, their servers, most of them still work. I do believe the 2K, the WWE 12 servers were actually stopped working back in maybe 16, 17. So that was a good arc of time where those servers were still active. When the games jumped from next generation, those servers stayed active for another 2 years. But 2K love to save that money because it ain't NBA and they can't do the loot boxes and they can't do their gambling. You think you slick? They can't do that. So they just cut the servers within a couple of months. So that's out the question. So the only thing left for people who want to play competitively is to just suck it up and buy. Okay, sure. But the fact that we're given a substandard product at full price is a little bit disenfranchising. And the fact that this is what makes it even more trash is the fact that during this little interview that Chris Denkops had, the devs had the audacity, the sheer gall, the nuts to say that playing online is what this game is about, playing with your friends. If that was the case, lobbies would have been in. If that was the case, the control scheme would be the way it used to be. If that was the case, we would have things like 8 players online. If that was the case, we would have 2 versus 2 versus 2. If that was the case, we could do actual handicap matches. If that was the case, we could do special guest referee matches. If that was the case, we could do mixed tag matches or intergender matches. If that was the case, if that was the motherfucking case, then all these online glitches would be stamped out immediately. So here's a bit of difference. The UFC game, UFC 3, I believe, has been out for about 3 to 3.5 years. About 3.5 years. I don't know I forgot the dev's name, but to this day, the game play is still tweaked. Every aspect of the combat system is tweaked monthly by the devs. You are lucky to get a glitch fixed in 2K19. That's a fact. If you care about your online players, things like this wouldn't be an issue. If you cared about your online players, you wouldn't have the fact that most players don't even want to play online because it's a toxic cesspool. I apologize. You don't. So don't sit there in front like you do, because if you did, you would at least enlist a community, or you would hire people with the capability to help you fix this online mess. But you don't. You don't. Here's another fun fact that some of you may or may not realize when you're playing online. If they cared so much about online, when you get desynced, not disconnected, desynced from another player or from your friend or from your cousin, your client, your foe, whatever, your opponent, you would get a message. What's desync? And here's a fun fact. You ever play a game online and all of a sudden, maybe you were losing, all of a sudden you just start beating someone's ass and then you win and you're like, haha, I won, and you're all excited and stuff. And you come to find out you weren't actually playing that person. That person was replaced by AI, but you didn't never see the message. That's called a desync. That's been happening since 2K17. Actually, no, 2K16. Prior, you would get a message stating the fact and that your opponent was replaced by AI. Now, the only reason you get that message would be when you're actually a hard disconnect. Basically, someone lost the internet connection, the game dropped them, or they literally pulled the plug. That's the only way you'll get the message. A desync occurs often, but the fact is you don't know about it because the game doesn't tell you about it. If you did, you would know that to get out the game, to pause the game, exit, and then find your friend and play again. But you don't, because that option is not available. It doesn't display anymore. So basically, it's a bug that's been there for the last 4 years that nobody bothered to fucking fix. So if you care about your online players, and the only reason that people in OCW know about this bug is for the simple fact that we have specific rules for online behavior, because the game, you guys can't get your shit together. So we have to make these goofy ass rules to have our games to be watchable, playable, fun, and non-cheesy, because y'all can't get your shit together. So when we notice that we have a match and all of a sudden people are playing really erratically, they desynced, we have to restart. But for the average person, when they play, what'll happen is they'll be there for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes thinking they're having the match of their lives, but they're not. They're playing against some AI guy who's been replaced by, their opponent's been replaced by AI and they don't even know about it. If you cared about online, things like this wouldn't be an issue, or you would take measures to remedy the situation, but you don't. So don't sit there and say you care about online, because the options are limited. Everything's limited. You can't even do it. You can't have. You can't take specific options that you have offline online. Why is it that I can't have like, you know, a first blood match online or infinite reversals? Why? All right, maybe it's like, oh, it affects the game. Okay, how about we have our private lobbies like every other game where you can have private lobbies and have private rules, and we can do whatever we want to do there. Why, if you care so much about online players, why not give us these options that we've asked for time and time and time again? You don't. So don't sit there and act like you do. That's the fact, Jack. So we're sitting here spending upwards of $90 for a transitional game by your words, not ours, by your words, a transitional game while you try to get your stuff together. But let's blame Luke. Let's blame Ukes for putting you guys in a bad spot. It's fine. You're going to make money on art. So who cares, right? Here's the other thing before I go. And I know I'm all over the place, so I apologize. But I'll end with this. If simplified controls ends with just the Y button being used for reversals, okay, sure. That means finishers will be a right trigger. It is what it is. It's stupid. But it's not entirely new because at one point, their square used to be a reversal button. I forgot which game it was, but it used to be. And the trigger button used to be for finishers. It's happened once or twice. But if you remove grapples, which I think you might remove a grapple state because it's quote unquote simpler. Fuck you. Seriously, stop butchering the game to care for the lowest denomination. You're going to get your money regardless, but try to do right by the actual fans who year in and year out spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, not thousands, hundreds of dollars. Well, in my community, it's actually thousands because there's like 50 of us, but yeah, right? So that was my very specific personal rant about my distaste for WWE 2K20. And you may ask, are you going to buy it? Probably, because I have a community to support. And that's what you do when you have a community. Sometimes you have to make stupid ass sacrifices for the greater good. So we'll see. Who knows? I mean, we had that shit show of 2K15. Had to stop. So I don't know, man. The ball's in your court. We'll see what happens. But just letting you know, if you lose a grapple state, I told you so. It is what it is. And if you cared about online visual concepts, because you can set the picture. If you cared about online 2K, you know, maybe talk to the fans. You make it seem like it's utterly difficult. I don't know how to program. I'm not going to pretend I know how to program, but I know that these online options shouldn't be an issue for the simple fact that they were in previous games. They were in previous iterations. So I know it's not as simple as flipping a switch, but, you know, it's not overly difficult. Speaking of flipping a switch, how about we get together and figure out why, you know, whenever the match loads, you load a bunch of outside assets as well. Like, we didn't know that. Here's a fun fact for those who own the PC version of the game, who may or may not hacksaw their game. The reason why some of your load times are ridiculous when using custom edited calls and all that good stuff, or even in general when you're loading a match, is because when your match loads, in addition to loading your call, it loads a copy of your call for some reason in the back that never gets used or seen. It loads the background. It loads the background area. When I say background, I mean not just the arena, but everything behind the arena, all the assets behind the arena, all the WWE assets all over the place. And this is for a one-on-one match, not even like a backstage rules match, anything, because those matches don't have different states. Where like in the classic games, if you were to throw someone like past a certain barrier, they would transition to another scene. In this game, there's only one scene, which is basically the arena area. But no, for some strange reason, when you load a match, it loads everything else when it doesn't need to. That's bad design. That's bad coding. That's just slapping a band-aid on a goddamn dam. A goddamn Rob Van Dam. That's my rant. Thank you for listening. VC, get your shit together. I know it's not different. I know it's not easy, but I don't know. Maybe talk to the community, people that actually know things. That might help. God help us, because we gonna need it. Have a wonderful night.